so this is what Ao Kuang is represented as. You saw a little bit of the art earlier, but you can see that he's got this little floating thing going on, kind of surfing a little puddle of water and moving around, so we can move around a little bit here and really just show what his character is about. He's very, you know, as far as the art style, he's very regal and very...
Oh yeah, very, very poised, and I love the flow just in his dress and the elements that he has as he moves around. Yeah.
Right, and so of course, Naja has a spear, Sun Wukong has Ao Kuang's staff, the pillar, and so Ao Kuang, he's got a sword.
Yeah, you know, and that sword is actually a really big part of his lore. You know, if you're ever in China and you're looking at statues of all these different characters, you know, a lot of them are in human form, and one of the ways you can tell Ao Kuang apart from the others is that he's got the sword.
Right. So the sword is kind of filled with lightning. Now, one thing that you noticed before about Ao Kuang is very wind-esque, but, you know, obviously he's represented with the tides and the storms, and so there is a bit of, you know, water, mist, and lightning kind of mixed in together with his art style, and you'll see that as the kit goes through here. So right off the bat, look above his profile, you will see a sword right above there, that little icon in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here. That's going to be his passive, so he does have this interesting energy element that goes into it. So the way it works from a conceptual standpoint, we'll be able to go through numbers tomorrow for patch notes, which actually will be live from Germany, those of you who are waiting for the EU Regional Championship. But the passive, you can see it has 3 very specific sections to it. And the way it works is he will get, for the first 3 abilities he casts, if he has energy, if he casts an ability, it'll use up the energy and increase the damage that the ability does. So he's kind of front-loading his damage, right? So when he first starts a fight after not being in the fight for a while, he'll be able to do more damage for those few abilities in the beginning, and that energy will regenerate. So, you know, why did we end up going with the whole energy style?
Yeah, you know, for those people that have been kind of tracking Ao Kuang for a while in different posts, you know, you'll probably know that this is a change over what we had in previous versions. Really what we're doing is, as we've gotten to playing him more, you know, he has very much this all-in mentality to a fight. He's going in, and if he can get that kill, you know, there's amazing things he can do. But with that all-in style, we wanted a passive that just played into that strength that, you know, essentially a prolonged fight, he's going to be a little bit more of a disadvantage. Early in the fight, though, he has a very, very nice advantage. And I think that's really why we settled on it, is it just seemed to fit his style.
Put it out on the ground here. Here we go. You can see I can smack him up a bit with my sword. And even with no levels, no items, or nothing, he's pretty quick with a sword.
Yeah, he's actually, you got probably the fastest 4-hit attack hit chain we have in the game, I think.
Wow.
So very, very quick attacks.
Okay, well that is the passive. Passive, of course, granting bonus damage on your first few attacks, and there are a few ways for him to actually regenerate that energy and get more damage out of it. But at this point, let's go ahead and hop into the 1. Now the 1 is called Watery Illusion, and so what this will do is that when you first activate it, you will get a chance to select a location to teleport to. Now this is very short, not giving numbers, but this is a very short blink, but you can control the distance.
That's right. Yeah, it's you know, it's short enough that you're not going to outpace anyone with a good leap or a dash. But there's obviously other elements to it that are very useful.
So being able to control it gives you a lot of freedom. Obviously, you can blink in place. But one of the beauties about this is 2 things will happen when you blink. Number 1, you will leave a watery illusion behind you. It's kind of like a water clone. The other thing is that once you blink, you will enter into stealth. You'll actually become stealth. So you see I'm stealth here, and I left an illusion behind me. I can't actually detonate this, so that will explode. But one thing about this stealth is that if you do anything, you're out of stealth.
That's right. If you do anything, and on this stealth, because it's a water illusion, if you take damage, you're also revealed.
So if anything hits you, or you hit anyone, or you take any action, you will drop out of stealth immediately. But you know, you get a good chance to kind of blink out, right? They see the illusion, they don't know where you are, and you're able to kind of move behind and get some good positioning going and actually start attacking and really get some nice you know, trickery in there, right? So he's very much in that kind of assassin style for a melee mage, where he's able to kind of move around and position himself effectively. So definitely an easy way to control around. Now, the second ability, of course, he's going to need some damage. He's going to need some damage if he's going to be a melee mage. So on activation, the second ability will spawn dragons around him. You know, obviously, the old style, he called upon his dead ethereal ghost friends to fight, and he's still going to do the same thing here. So when you activate, you'll see dragons start to float around Ao Kuang. Now, I can move freely. There's no extra effects that happen passively. But if I do attack, these dragons will then assist me and attack with me.
That's right.
If they decide to. You can see how it shoots out, does damage, shoots out, does damage. help me out with the damage that actually might kill him, indeed it will. And so these get used up, but you know, you can see it's actually still flashing, and so it's still showing me a little bit of duration there. So one of the cool things about this is that you actually have to make a choice with this ability. So when you activate it, you'll get dragons around you, and at any point during the ability, while there's dragons left, you can actually choose to activate it again and shoot those dragons out as a projectile, which applies a slow. So this is an interesting element to an ability.
Yeah, and the damage and the amount of slow on that projectile scales based on how many dragons you have. Actually, I really like this ability because it actually brings sort of a mini resource play into it. You know, you can hit basic attacks with maybe 3 dragons augmenting your damage. You can, when you need to, switch and do a slow with it. And as we get into number 3, you can actually use it there as well for kind of increasing the clear, which we'll see here in a second.
You'll be able to kind of hit him, and of course, depending on how many dragons you have left, like you mentioned, you'll do more or less damage with more or less of a slow. So a lot of times in playtests, we'll be playing them in the jungle. We'll be popping this up. You'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and at the last one, we have one dragon left. I'll shoot out for the slow, just get the actual little gap clear, which is very, very powerful. But you can see that late game, you're able to kind of just pop slash, a lot of damage coming through. But it does require that you stay in melee range. So he does have that stealth element, movement element to help him stay in that range. Now the third ability, this is the ability that kind of bridges the gap, right? Because you have this idea of an ability that it's more defensive, utility style, has long cooldown. Second ability, more offensive, melee-based, long cooldown. So you need something to bridge that gap, and that's where the third ability comes in. So this is a cone that shoots lightning, Scott.
That's right. It shoots lightning and wind.
So there's the damage you shoot out there. This has a relatively short cooldown on it,
right.
So it can be used very often. But one of the cool things about this is that, again, this is a recurring theme with Kuang. A lot of his abilities and passive elements are connected. So you're actually able to pop this up and shoot one, and a dragon will go with it.
Yeah, there's really nothing special kind of about the cone on its own. Actually, there's something special. It's considered a basic attack. So it'll actually proc item effects, including your Telkine's ring, things along that line, which is really important for him build-wise. But the other thing it does is because it's a basic attack, it triggers the dragon. So if you put down 3 guys as an example, you can show kind of split on that.
See if we can actually get a spread on these.
To me, my brethren.
There's 2. See, the dragon will go to both of them. I don't even know if I can even get that close. I'm not that talented. Okay. You actually be able to... There we go, I found the angle. You see, 3 dragons will actually spawn out. A decent amount of damage there. Of course, running out of dragons will force that away. And so you'll see that the energy does really come back shortly from the sword. It'll naturally regenerate there and get up to the threshold. And while you're out of combat, you get a little bit of bonus there to get the energy back. But of course, right when you use it, it'll use one of the thresholds there, and we'll be able to kind of get more damage out of it from that. Now, this all comes down to something, right? You've got in there, you put your stealth in, you detonated your illusion, you put some dragons in their face, you zap them with lightning and wind. What do you do now?
Well, you eat them.
You eat them? Well, that's it. So you'll notice, and you guys have been noticing this the entire time. When you get someone low enough, what is that? That's an execute state. So his ultimate is this little cone in front of him. He'll be able to choose a target that is low enough. It's an execute. And so if they are low enough, you eat them. And now you're a giant dragon. You have a short duration to be able to choose a landing location. This actually does do damage when it lands. So you're able to do a lot there. You'll notice the energy has refilled in the sword as well. So once you get that successful execute, you gobble them up, you're up in the air for a short duration. You can choose a landing location to deal damage and get your energy back if you want to get back in the fight. Now, what happens if I don't have them in execute range?
If you don't have them in execute range, you still jump into them, stab them, and throw them up into the air, but you don't execute them. So at that point, it's much more of a clear or a getaway or something along that line.
And so you can do something like this. You can toss them up in the air, and then you can blink away, and all of a sudden there's a clone there at the bottom. Of course, you could even try to do things like this, where you blink away, when they land, you detonate, do some damage on that. Some really cool, interesting combinations that come with that. But you definitely get an interesting combo. Now, knowing the full kit of Kuang, front-loaded damage, mobility, high burst, sustained damage with a 3, and then an execute. So he's very much, I want this guy dead, and I'm rewarded for doing so. But obviously, if I get them down to the range and I'm swinging, and I ult, and I missed it,
That's right.
Don't really have much left.
There is an envelope for success on any guy you jump on that if you, even in the middle of a team fight, if you can get that execute, you're guaranteed out and you're guaranteed able to reposition, which is very, very strong. But, you know, there's definitely a finesse and skill involved with timing it all just right.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting, right? And even, and this is what we talked about earlier, right? Fitting a giant dragon into space is not easy, and so we see that now here. Even on this practice map, he barely fits onto this thing. I mean, he's a big dude. He fills the room. It's giant.
And his range on his landing is actually extremely far. It's much further than, for example, Thor would travel. So I think that's worth saying is that you can actually cross lanes if you get a successful kill. Well, it's the thin part of the lanes anyway.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like much from up here, but you're kind of a giant dragon, so everything seems a little bit smaller to you. So at this point, guys, go ahead and toss your questions in chat while we go over the last little bits of this here. But you know, give us your impressions. Let us know what you think about Kuang. This is something that we've been kind of excited to work on for quite some time. It's been seen in pieces. Of course, this was one of our send-offs. China got it before we did. Obviously, being the Chinese dragon, the express right. But honestly, it's something that's really exciting because he brings a couple new things to the game that we haven't really seen before, and I think it also puts a really, really exciting spin on that whole airborne idea. Right? We've got Ram, who goes up in the air, has his own land down mechanics. Nuwa goes up as well. Thor, Apollo, and they all have their own different effect when they're in the air, right? They're not just flying, they're doing something when they're up there. And it's amazing how many different things you can do with the air. And really the power of Smite is that Z-axis, the fact that you can use that airborne space in such a creative way. And it's so much fun. How do you do that?
It's so rewarding too, not just because you became the dragon, but you also got the kill. Everything's together at the same time, the sound.
Right, yeah.
It's very enjoyable. Now, I know one of the things that our more professional guys will be talking about is that a lot of his damage is deferred kind of a half second behind because you're waiting for the travel time of those dragons. So there's actually a lot of skill involved in anticipating how much damage they're about to take.
Oh, it takes like 3 games. I mean, just in the early parts of development, myself just playing him a lot. It takes a lot of experience to know how many dragons you have and how many you need before you actually go for it. Something like that. I mean, obviously, when I activate it, he's not in the threshold, but as I go in the animation, the dragon hits him, and then it becomes the threshold, and then it goes up. And so that, obviously, with the ultimate, just like the Ender's execute, and most executes in the game, abilities have to scale. And so with that, putting more points with the ultimate gives you a higher threshold of execution, which is very helpful for late game control. But again, he's got that ability to kill the squishies himself, or eat the tankier targets if they have higher amounts of HP. Some question in the chat. Can you move in the ult? No, you are stationary. You will stand where you are. You will float. You do a little flip, and then that's it. You cannot move around. You have to stay here.
During development, we actually did have it where you could turn around, but this 100-foot-long dragon spinning in a circle on the map was very awkward looking.
Do a little do-si-do.
Yeah.
So what are some of the fun things that happened during development that didn't seem to work out?
We originally tried on the dragon that he actually leapt about 65 feet. In dragon form, but the problem was his front feet would land before his back feet left the ground, and it just didn't work. It was the most awkward thing. So that was one of the failed ultimate attempts.
What if multiple enemies are in the execute range?
It's basically closest god to you.
That's right, as you can see here. Whichever one is actually physically closer to my look distance or where they're standing. And it actually shows you, obviously has a good way of showing you that they are in the threshold, right? Right there, you see that big X right there. And of course, it also has that little dragon over their head and a little red highlight to let you know which one you're going to eat if you're going to eat anybody.
You have slain an enemy.
And I've seen Guardians before block and execute just by getting in your face too, so it's there's definitely counters to that.
Can the water illusion be targeted by towers?
No, the water illusion's not actually a hittable kind of minion decoy. It's just kind of an effect that's marking that location.
So you'll see where he came from, and one of the beauties of it, right, is that you'll actually see which way he blinked too, because and this is something that's a little bit more competitive at the higher level, right? You'll notice that which way he blinked to is facing the clones. You'll know which way he ran off.
That's right, and a well placed shot after the blink can often reveal him.
That's right. Can you beads his ult?
Yes, you can. That was a major talking point, and we'll have to see how it plays. But But like Naja, you can actually beads out of his ult, or if you're CC immune, he also won't execute you.
His kit is everything, escape, initiate, accept, it looks very strong. Was he challenging to balance?
Yes.
Fair enough. What if Ao Guang dies before he goes up with the execute? Is he targetable in this animation?
He is at the beginning. There's a point right when he turns into the dragon that he's no longer hittable. So if you take him out, like you'll see there's a little stun part.
Right.
If you take him out during that stun part, then he will die there. Yeah, in that way.
Interesting. A lot of nice counters to him. Is there a minimum range on the dragon dunk? Yes, this range right here. You'll see this little, anything that exists inside this little cone, and you'll see a targeter above him. See, is there scaling for his execute? Yes, we answered that earlier. There will be scaling for the execute, as all, characters in Smite need scaling. Can you blame through walls with this one? You can, but it's very, very short.
Yeah,
this
it has to be a short wall or a corner. Yep.
In fact, I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 locations in the game where you can actually. I mean, obviously, if you do it at an angle like this, you certainly could, right? You'll be able to blink over it, but there are very few walls that are, as cleanly cut and as short as this.
No, maybe more importantly, you can blink through a Ymir wall, something like that too, which is obviously useful.
It's 1 and 3 go through walls. Actually, good. Have you tested that?
Does he mean the 2, the projectile from the 2? Or that one will. The projectile from the 2 won't. At least it should.
Oh, that's gonna count. I mean, obviously you have to hit him to be able to do it. So there's no way to.
Well, I meant the 2 if you're throwing the dragon forward.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that one's first target hit, so it should stop at the wall.
Yep, that does not go through. There you go. Let's see. If you ult someone right before they reach the threshold, and you do enough damage to them in the execute range, do you execute them? If you start the animation for the ult and they're not in execute range, and you or someone else hits them and puts them in execute range before you finish the animation.
Yeah. So right now the way that works, and this is something that we've worked at a lot to try to get to feel good, and we might still modify. Right now, the minute your sword hits them, and there's a short stun when you get hit them there, that's when it decides if you were executing or not. So if you're in that little leap going forward and they take enough damage to shift in, then yes. Likewise, though, if they get healed a lot right before you hit them on that, then they won't be executed.
Right. Just testing the landing location here. So it does work like all aerials. You'll go to where your target is looking when the
time runs out.
Runs out. So
or back down if it's an invalid location. Yeah.
I see. So if I do try to look at location here on the wall, someone was asking, can you go straight back down if you choose to?
There's a small area underneath him that you can't go down.
I see. So only if you're looking at something that can't be done.
That's right. Yeah, if you're looking at something that you can't, then you go straight back down. If you're targeting, there's like a small little target frustrum that you can aim at.
You have slain an enemy.
Yeah, it's actually pretty big.
Yeah, actually it is big on him because he's so high in the air.
Right. Yeah. He's going to be the first energy-based god. No, he still does use mana. He has an energy component involved with his kit, but he still does use mana like every other god in the game, just like Thanatos. Why did you guys decide to give him an execute, if you care to comment?
There was interesting trade-offs there. We could have just done a lot of damage. In fact, there's plenty of gods that have enough damage on their ultimate that it would amount to an execute at that low of health. But adding the execute did a couple things. One is it really did kind of force you to use it towards the end of the fight. And it also gives them an advantage versus more heavily armored targets, obviously. Whether it's warriors or guardians or people on that line. But I think it just felt right, I guess, when we were playing the kit, for it to be an execute versus just a lot of damage.
Can you execute while in dragon form? What?
No.
What? I'm not sure. That doesn't make any sense. What is his role? He is a mage. He's a melee mage. If you go straight down, does it deal damage? Yes, it does. Any landing, whether they're forced or not, that will do damage when he lands. Let's see. Well, is one aggro minions? No, it's not a decoy. It's not even targetable. It's not really even real. It's just an illusion, as is the name would suggest. Very much not real. What if 2 Ao Guangs hit each other with the ult? The age-old question.
The age-old question. One's going to land the... Well, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like any other characters ulting each other. If they're both at the state that they're CC immune, then both will hit each other, neither will stun, and neither will go up into the air.
Wow.
Obviously, if one lands at a fraction before the other one does, in terms of when the CC immunity starts, then that one will just win.
It's always an interesting interaction, right? It's like the two Hercules driving each other.
That's right.
And,
who gets moved?
yeah. And then two tears trying to grab each other and that kind of thing. So, always fun. Dragons from two. I guess I have my own voice back on. That's really distracting. Middle stuff. Can I test how far it goes into the conquest map? No, so right now we're still in development, guys. Things won't be final until the patch notes come out tomorrow. Those will be happening tomorrow at 4 p.m. EST. That's 16 in military time EST, or 22 CEST, which is going to be 10 o'clock CEST. So hopefully that helps you guys really understand what's going on, and you'll be able to see all the skins, balance changes, and all that. And as we're wrapping up here, is there anything you want to tease at a little bit for the patches at all, or do you care to comment on anything that may be coming their way?
Oh, I don't know. You can't put me on the spot there. I don't think so. I think wait to see what's kind of teased at the full patch notes.
I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be it. Looks like all the questions have pretty much been answered, and hopefully you guys are really seeing it. Now, keep in mind, guys, remember the last time when we released Nox, we released the written form called Developer Insight. This was a page that allows you to go and it's a more extensive interview with the design team overall and really see where their thoughts were and where their, goals were with Nox. We're going to do the same thing. In fact, this is going to be even more elevated. So as we close out here, I'm going to go ahead and put that link up in chat for everyone to follow. So head on over to that link and really explore the powers of Ao Kuang and the things that happen there. You'll also be able to see his alternate recolor skin at the bottom of the page. And if you guys have any feedback on Developer Insight, something we're starting new and really trying to see if we can carry it, if you guys are really enjoying it, go ahead and send that in to me, or really just send it on Twitter or something like that, and send it through the channels and we'll pick it up. Here is the link, Developer Insight. Here we go. Ao Kuang revealed. So that'll be it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow for patch notes at 4 p.m. EST, 10 p.m. CEST, right here on Twitch.tv Smite Game. And of course, we will have PTS ready to go as well through the weekend if things work out. Always tentative, but we're excited to see it as we go to the end of the year. We have some more things to release towards the end. Of course, SWC coming up. A lot of big things.
Coming up. Yeah.
And we look forward to showing them off to you guys. So have a wonderful night for myself and Scott and all of our production team, which is us, and all of our admins, which is us, and all of the people running this closet is us. So we'll see you guys a little bit later.